In the previous lecture, we have already discussed about for loop and we have looked at the working of for loop in details. In this lecture, we are going to talk about the while loop in details. We are going to look at the syntax of while loop and we are going to see how it works, and then we're going to write a computer program to demonstrate the same. So let's get started. Now first let's start from what we know. That is, we need to know two things to actually write a loop. The first one is what is to be repeated, and the next question is how many times to repeat. So let's say we would like to display the message hello in the screen for 5 times. Okay, and this is the code for doing the same using for loop, which we have already discussed. So in this for loop, I equals to 1 is the initialization, I less than equals to 5 is the condition that will control our loop, and I plus plus is the statement that will update our variable I, and printf hello is the statement that will be repeated for 5 times. Okay, now let's try to first of all look at the syntax of while loop. While loop is very simple. There is a keyword called as while in small letters. Okay, and you open the parenthesis and you write a condition. Okay, now you write just one component inside the parenthesis, that is the condition, and you open the brace and here you write the body of the while loop. Okay, now this condition may evaluate to either true or false. Okay, so whenever this condition evaluates to true, then it will go inside the body and then the body will be executed. Okay, and whenever the condition evaluates to false, okay, it will exit. That means it will come outside of the loop. This is how it works. Okay, now in the case of for loop, we had initialization, right? This is initialization, so I'll write it here, initialization, right? And the second one, I less than equals to 5 is the condition. Okay, and the third one is I plus plus is the updation. These are the 3 components available in the for loop. Obviously body is also there, right? Now if I have to compare this for loop with the while loop, what you can see here is this condition, the second one that we write in the for loop, is available here as the condition in the while loop. Okay, and there is no specific place that is given for inserting the initialization and updation in the while loop. So generally what is done is this. Okay, I'm just going to write down here while condition. You give the condition here. Okay, and here you write the body of the loop. Okay, now if you have to initialize something, then your initialization statement should come before the while loop. Okay, initialization would come before the while loop. Okay, that is, this initialization should come before the while loop here. And if you want to update a variable, it should be there in the body of the loop. Okay, the last statement in the body of the loop, or it can be anywhere also. The statement for updation will come here inside the body of the loop. Okay, so this is how you can compare the for loop with the while loop. So now let's try to write the same loop that we have written down using for loop using the while. Okay, so first of all, initialization will come here. So let me put the initialization statement here at the beginning before I start the loop. So initialization is I equals to 1. So I equals to 1 will come here. Okay, now what is the condition? Condition will be coming here. So condition is I less than equals to 5. Okay, so instead of this, I have to write the condition here, that is I less than equals to 5. Okay, what is there in the body? Now in the body, I am actually going to print the message hello in the screen. Okay, so I'm just going to write printf hello. Okay, this is what comes in the body of the while loop. Okay, now updation statement will be the last statement in the body of the loop. Okay, so here I'll put the updation, that is I plus plus will come here. Okay, so I'll just replace this. So instead of this, I'll put I plus plus here. Okay, so this is I plus plus. Okay, now if you just look at this initialization I put at the beginning of the while loop before the while loop starts, and I'll put the updation inside the while loop. If you do it this way, then it will work the same way as the for loop. Okay, now let's try to trace this program. Okay, for tracing, first of all, what happens is I is initialized here to 1, so I initially becomes 1. Okay, now first step is you will check the condition. That is, what is the condition? I is less than equals to 5. I is how much? I is 1. So 1 is less than equals to 5. Is it true or false? It is true, right? So if this is true, if this is true, if this condition is true, it will go inside and then execute the statement inside the body of the loop. So this is true here. So it will go inside the body and it will execute the printf hello. So hello would be printed in the screen, and then after this I is incremented, okay, because this is the last statement. So after this printing is done, I would be incremented by 1, okay. So I plus plus will make I as 2, the new value of I would be 2, okay. And then once this is done, it will go back and it will again check the condition, okay. Now we check the condition I less than equals to 5. I is 2, 2 less than equals to 5 is true. If 2 less than equals to 5 is true, it will go inside the body and execute the message hello. That means hello is displayed in the screen, and then I is incremented by 1. So now I gets updated to 3. It was 2 previously, now it becomes 3 because it is incremented by 1. Okay, now what do I do is, once this is incremented, it will go back and check the condition. Now condition is I less than equals to 5, I is 3, 3 less than equals to 5 is true, okay, this is true. If this is true, again it will go inside the body, okay, and then it will print the message hello in the screen. So hello is displayed, okay, and then again you increment the value of I by 1, so now I becomes 4, and then you again go back and check the condition, that is I less than equals to 5. In this case I is 4, so I'll do I less than equals to 5, that is 4 less than equals to 5, which is still true. So if it is true, it will come inside the body and then it will display the message hello in the screen. So hello is again displayed, okay, and then increment the value of I by 1, I becomes 5, okay, and then you again check the condition, that is I less than equals to 5. So I is 5, so 5 less than equals to 5 is again true, okay. So if it is true, it will go inside the loop and then print the message hello in the screen, and then it will update the value of I by 1. So now I becomes 6. Now finally, once I becomes 6, again it will go back and check the condition I less than equals to 5. Okay, I is 6, 6 less than equals to 5. Is it true or false? Now this is false. Now 6 less than equals to 5 is false. So if this becomes false, whenever this statement, this condition becomes false, this has already become false here, okay. If this becomes false, it will not go inside the body, rather it will come outside of the loop. So the looping is done. So the loop terminates. This is called as termination of loop. Termination of loop. Okay. When does loop terminate? Loop will terminate whenever this condition becomes false. This condition becomes false whenever the value of I is 6. 6 less than equals to 5 is false. So whenever this becomes false, loop terminates and then the looping stops. So I'll stop looping here. So hello is not printed further. Okay, so if I just follow this particular procedure, I have printed hello 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, so this is how the while loop works. So now let's summarize one more time the syntax of the for loop as well as the while loop. Okay, so for loop syntax is, for is the keyword. You have 3 parameters in the parenthesis: the initialization statement, the conditional statement, and the updation statement, and this is the body of the loop. Okay, in while loop it's very simple. You just have this keyword while, small letters, and the condition that you write in the second parameter of the parenthesis will come here. So this is the condition of the while loop. Okay, and the body, this is the body. Okay, this is the body of the loop. Okay, now there is no specific place to place the initialization and the updation statement in while loop. Okay, so if you have to initialize something, so that you have to do it yourself. Initialization you can do it here at the beginning of the loop. Okay, and updation you can do it from the body of the loop. Okay, this is how you can actually compare the for loop and the while loop. Okay, so whatever you can actually achieve using for loop, you can also achieve the same thing using the while loop. Okay, so these are the syntax of for and while loop. Now let's write down a computer program to demonstrate the working of while loop in more details. Now this is the same program to find the sum of numbers from 2 to 20 that we had used for demonstrating the working of for loop. Okay, now you have to produce the sum of all these numbers 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 up to 20 using the while loop, and this is the syntax for while loop. Now this is the code that we have already written in one of our previous lectures for the for loop. Okay, now let's try to just copy this code and then make it work for while loop. Okay, so I'll just write while. Okay, and this is the syntax for while loop. Okay, here I have to give the condition. Okay, condition. Now the initialization component I'll have to write before the while loop. So I'll write the initialization here. So that is I equals to how much? I is 2 initially, because I have to start adding the number starting from the number 2. So I is 2. And what is the condition? Condition is I less than 21. I less than 21. That means it will go up to 20. You can also write I less than equals to 20 as well. Okay. And then what you do inside the body is the same thing. I can just copy this and then put it here. Okay. This is the body, that is sum equals to sum plus I. This is the body. Okay. And the updation statement should come here, that is I plus plus. Okay, so this is how you can actually write it. And once this is done, once everything is done, the sum is found out. Outside of the loop, I'll display the sum here. Okay, so this is how it works. So let me just remove this for part. Okay, this is how it works in the while loop. Okay, now let's see what happens. Let me compile this. So you see the sum is 209. Let's say somehow I missed writing the updation part. Let's see what happens. If I forget writing the updation part, let's see what happens. Okay, so it is actually, not giving me any output, because this loop will never end. This kind of a loop is called as infinite loop, because every time the value of I is 2, the value of I is not updated. So 2 is less than 21 is true. So sum would be executed, sum equals to sum plus I would be executed, and then again 2 is not updated, right? Every time it is 2 is less than 21 is true, 2 is less than 21 is true. So this will never stop, right? This kind of a loop is called as an infinite loop. Okay, so to avoid infinite loop, you will have to write the increment here. You have to update the variable I. Okay, so I can also write I equals to I plus 1. I am updating the variable I. Okay, now this should work fine, and you should get the sum as 209. Okay, this is how while loop works. So that's all in this lecture. Here we have learned the syntax of while loop. We have done the comparison of while loop with the for loop, and we have demonstrated the working of while loop by tracing the code, and finally we have demonstrated how does while loop work by writing a computer program. Okay, so that's all in this lecture. In my next lecture, I'm going to talk about do while loop. Until then, stay tuned.